Community Beacon, Fridays at 6:30 EST, with your hosts Michaeldseville and Joel Simmons. A channel whose focus is liberty. A place where the lessons discussed and taught will create openings to a more open and freer mindset. A mindset where you may reach the height of your potential and excel. Here are your hosts, Mike and Joel.
What is going on? What is going on, people? One more time, we are in the place to be, the community beacon. It's now 6:30. It's not actually not 6:30, but it's the 8th. You all will be seeing this at 6:30 on the 8th of July. We're 1 week in, brother. What's going on? I got my co-host with the most, Mr. Joel Simmons, the motivationerpreneur. Did I say that right, or did I tongue twist it out?
Motivatorpreneur.
Hey, Motivatorpreneur. Bye.
I love it. What's going on, brother? You know, another great day. Excited to be here. Excited to be with you. You know, and I'm loving that this opportunity that we have here as just for y'all out there in the background. In the world of YouTube, Anna is not with us right now, so we are flying, and we don't got anybody. The whole show is about Emancipation Proclamation, and guess what? We are emancipated.
and the common sense of the word, we, you know, and man, let me get on to what it is I need to do, so I don't get talked to a little bit later on.
Yes,
guys,
sir.
Welcome to the Community Beacon. We appreciate you guys each and every Friday that you guys check in, and even sometimes when you are doing our replays, we definitely appreciate that. As Joe mentioned, this entire month of July, we're talking about the emancipations that we spoke about freedom. We spoke about, you know, July 4th was in the Independence Day. I hope everyone had an excellent Independence Day. Of course, June 18th last month was Juneteenth. So we were, you know, we're just continuing on with that theme. So let me get the housekeeping in order, guys. Please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. Some of you all can hit the love button. So if you're on Facebook and you see the love button down there, click the love button. Click the laugh button if we make you laugh as well. Just give us some type of engagement, guys. So we really do appreciate it once again. So that's every Friday. That's what we appreciate you guys doing. Guys, on Mondays, what it takes every Monday. I even did it. I didn't take a day off. A lot of people took the 4th off. I was working on the 4th. The brother checked in with me on the 4th.
Yes, I did.
So we're having conversations. We're still moving the needle, even on, you know, these so-called, you know, days off. You're right. There are holidays, but they're not days off. And so cooking with fire on Monday, guys, talking about what it takes to turn that business from a hustle to a business. I got some believers, man. I know I got some believers because I had a conversation this morning in regards to just that. People wanting to take their hustle. And there's nothing wrong with continuing to have a hustle while you have a business, but we want to turn this into a business. What I don't want you guys to do is to just continue, you know, running around in circles, chasing your tail and creating a job for yourself. So that's what I'm going over on what it takes on Mondays at 9 o'clock. Then we have Wednesdays. It can't stop, it won't stop, and it's gonna start with you. It starts with me every Wednesday, 12:30. Joel is coming by, dropping the heat, interviewing all kinds of different entrepreneurs, different people in the community. We have coaches. Man, I tuned into one the other day with what's the young lady's name? You did 2 parts with her. Oh man, he's on. I think Joe's on mute. We can't hear you, brother. There you
go. That was Emily, I believe, that you're talking about right there.
Yeah. So I went and checked that out, guys. So chock's full with loads with information and people that will that you know sharing their testimony and their business. And so who you have this Wednesday?
Man, I definitely thank you for opening the door up for that. You know, so this Wednesday we have Cecilia. She's coming through. Cecilia Rendon. All right, so It's going to be a beautiful thing. Cecilia Rendon. And this young lady right here, she's from Ecuador, right? She's Ecuadorian American. She's an NLP trainer, NLP master
Oh, I love that.
practitioner, NLP life coach, NLP
I love
sports
it.
performance coach, a strategic intervention practitioner, an international public speaker, author of the book "You
Oh my
Love of
gosh.
Your Life," and she's just
What was the
amazing.
book
I
called?
actually
Repeat the book.
"You, the Love of Your Life."
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So her whole thing is about raising consciousness, raising consciousness, and we're hoping to see her start her own podcast soon. Soon, we want to see her start her podcast soon. So I actually got to do this interview in person, and that was definitely interesting. Seeing what we got going on in the nowadays, where everybody's on Zoom, everybody's afraid to meet in person. I went out to her house and we filmed this thing. Her husband was there and he got in the back and he took the dog and put the dog up, and her and I sat down on the couch, and it was a nice time. It was a good time. So I'm looking forward to doing more of those. But yeah, you definitely want to be there for that. She's going to be amazing. That's going to be episode 28.
Awesome. Awesome. Did she NLP you? You know what?
I'm gonna tell you
And
something
I
though, brother. There's a little bit of sizzle to this conversation. There was a slight moment in there where we were talking and we got kind of deep, especially towards the end. So I think y'all will like this. I don't know. We cut that one in two. I think it's only a one episode type of thing, but yeah, it got there.
I love it. And NLP, guys, neuro linguistic programming. Tony Robbins does it. Any salesperson worth their salt, if they're 1%, if they're in the top 1% of sales training, they've done neuro linguistic programming. You don't even and if they're doing it masterfully, you don't even know what's going on. There's certain embedded commands, etc. So I'm definitely going to be tuned into that interview because I geek out on that kind of stuff. It's almost like, oh my God, this is happening all behind the scenes, because there's certain when you get to neuro linguistic programming, what's happening is they're tapping into your brain without you necessarily knowing that it's happening. There's certain commands, there's certain pauses, there's certain intonations. It's awesome. I geek out on it, so I can't wait to hear
you're gonna love this one, man. You're gonna love this one because I'm gonna tell you something, and that's what the reason why I said it's a little bit of a sizzle inside of this thing, because I know when I walked in the door, she automatically told me a whole lot about myself, and I thought that was crazy interesting, right? From a viewpoint and perspective based off of the things that she knows, and that part is not recorded, right? But then when the conversation comes down to it, there was something that happened in the middle of that conversation, and I, I had to turn the tables just a little bit. But there was so much respect and so much honor that I just enjoyed it. And her and I walked away just kind of like loving the conversation that we had and being so excited and so happy. Listen, brother, I'm telling you, man, like, I don't know what it is. You say it's me, but people enjoy coming on to the show. And I love that. That's that, awesome, man. I'm making a lot of good relationships and new friendships. So anyway, let's keep it moving, bro. Where are we at?
We are going into, once again, guys, Community Beacon every Friday at 7:30. And once again, we are talking about freedom this month. We're talking a lot about freedom. Today's show, in fact, we're titling it the Emancipation Proclamation. Getting your papers, putting it down, putting it into law, which I find it's an interesting topic, because when this came into law, the Emancipation Proclamation, when Abraham Lincoln actually signed it in, it was just on paper. because of course, we were going through the Civil War. He did it, and there's varying stories, but one of the stories that mentions is that he did it was that so that Europeans, France in particular, didn't get involved in the war. Because what was going on during the Civil War was that the southern states were saying, "Listen, we want to do what we want to do. We don't necessarily respect you as the president. You're not my president." This didn't just start a couple years ago. This has been going on for years. There's nothing new under the sun. So this is not, you're not our president. That's what the South was saying. And so he put this in there saying that one of the reasons that the war was fought was to free slavery. Very interesting coming about. And now we're talking about that. What about us? What about nowadays, modern times? When did you quote unquote put down your Emancipation Proclamation? When did you become a man? In that respect, brother. So talk about it. Where do you want to start?
Man, I want to start with Abraham Lincoln. You know what I mean? January 1st, 1863. Because I think that you touched on it, because like that's the part that I was started on before I even get to myself. Because it's like when we start talking about young men, or young women for that matter, it's like, when does that actually happen? You made a very valid point that the Civil War was still happening. Here it is, signing them documents. You know what I mean? It's even like the fourth, right? The fourth, when it comes down to the Declaration of Independence. You know what I mean? It's like things are still going on. You can declare something, but it doesn't mean that it is actually taking place. The tangible physical evidence of whatever you have declared or whatever you have proclaimed, because you proclaim it, because you declare it, does not necessarily mean that it is actuality physically yet. And this goes back to PAM management, right? This is something that I teach. It's like PAM management, project, act, manifest. So when you project this thing out, it doesn't necessarily mean that it has manifested yet, but it doesn't mean that it's not manifesting, because part of what needs to happen is there needs to be a proclamation. There needs to be a declaration. There needs to be some type of announcement that says, listen, not only am I thinking this, but I believe so much in my thought that I'm telling you about it and that I'm now going to act after it. And I think that was one of the most powerful things that happened, because old Abe had put on paper what was being discussed behind closed doors. And whatever the reason for the discussion, like the brother was saying, whatever the reason for the discussion was being had. I mean, think about this. I'll take you to the Bible, right? When it comes down to Nicodemus, the 3rd chapter of the book of John, right? Nicodemus shows up to Jesus in the middle of the night. And he makes this declaration. He said, Master, we know that thou art come from God, because no man can do the things that you do except God has sent him. So he makes this declaration. But the thing that people miss is that he says, we know, which means it means that there was someone more than just Nicodemus. Or he would have said, I know, and like even the title of our show is My Emancipation Proclamation, right? But Nicodemus is saying, we know, which means there was a conversation behind closed doors. Listen, this is what I'm getting at, is that there is always a conversation held behind doors, whether it's me and my wife or me and Mike, or it's me and myself. There's always a conversation behind doors before something comes out. And in order for it to reach your mouth, you have to believe in it. You got to believe in it to proclaim it, to stand on it, to declare it, to fight for it, to die for it, to live for it, to invest in it, to risk in it. You have to believe in it. And that's what makes it manifest. So and that's where I want to start before I even get to me.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And you and I have had conversations earlier this week, and one of the things that I came up with, and this starts with that exactly to your point, is that the conversations were already being had, right? So the thought process I came down with was that you have to have that awareness, right? So even as a child, like you got this awareness. I know I had it. I know I was hitting up. I think I might have been 16 and I was like, yeah, look here, man. I can't wait. I can't wait to get up out of this house. So that was the conversation. And I didn't necessarily speak it. This stuff was just going on in my mind. And this was like and going back to Lincoln, this wasn't just something he woke up on, January 1st. If that was the date that he gave the speech, he didn't wake up that day and say, today is the day. This is a back and forth, because as like the Civil War will always go down as one of the most atrocious wars ever, because this was brother fighting against brother, right? This was brother, this was cousin, this was families being torn apart, this was a country being torn apart. These were the United States of America, and these states had succeeded because of their way of life. For him to come to that decision, it wasn't necessarily, it was not, and it wasn't just a off thought. I think most of our thoughts come that way. It comes from this awareness that we've had. We've become aware of something. Okay, we become aware of a decision that we may have to make. We become aware of it's coming upon that time, right? Because and if we and I think oftentimes we tend to push that awareness away, and that forms some type of anxiety because we're not necessarily living, especially if you have to make a decision. I don't know how many of you have had times when you just kept pushing something off. You kept pushing something off until it got to be critical, to where you had no choice but to deal with it. This Emancipation Proclamation kind of happened at that time. And oftentimes for a lot of us, we do wait till something has to be done. We don't pay attention, whether it's our health, whether it's leaving our jobs, whether it's opening up that business, whether or not it's volunteering for something, whether it's not having that conversation needs to be had. We kind of have this thing in our head. The next stage that I had was that, from that awareness, and you have to further think on it. So the next stage for me was clarity. I need to get clear on it now, because here it is, and I talk about it in the business. Sometimes we have these half thought out ideals, these things that we are mulling around in our minds, and that's why it's good to have a brother like Joel around, because I'll have
Well,
these
Mike,
things. I'll have these things in my mind, and I'll act on it. And the middle of the way, right in the middle of it, you're like, this probably wasn't the best idea. Or we've heard like this wasn't quite well thought out, you know. And now, and you've dug yourself a hole, and so now your ego may say you should keep going, depending on how far out you put yourself there. Although I'm not against action, because I would rather action than not action. Someone once said, ready, what is it? Ready, fire, aim. So you kind of make the adjustment as you go. However, the more clear you get on what it is that you're trying to do, the more people that you can have a soundboard against, and then not necessarily judge you, but are able to give you that constructive criticism to move forward, the better the action is going to be, the more effective action it's going to be. Go ahead, brother.
No, that's powerful. That's powerful. And listen, y'all, because sometimes, and this is something that Mike and I had talked about for quite some time, especially in the earlier episodes of Community Beacon, building as you fly. Just remember that you take a huge risk in building as you fly, because you don't know where you're going. You don't know what you're building. You don't have all these ideals. And so you have to be ready to make an immediate adjustment, an acute adjustment, when you find out that what you are doing is not successful, which means you got to put your ego up.
Got to put
like I said before, you got to stay high. Honesty, integrity filled, genuine, and humble. If you can't be humble enough to say, hey, you know what? What'd you say, brother? Ooh, that burns right there. That stings. But I'm gonna work on that. Because if you can't do that and someone is telling you that what you are doing is going to ruin you, then you should never have even started this. Your emancipation is going to end up in failure. It's going to end up in death. That's what it's going to end up in. You know, I want to introduce this next little piece, but I think you got one more, right?
Essentially, we're going into, because you were talking about the having essentially to make that decision, and you kind of just spoke on it right then and there in regards to the awareness, the clarity you're going to get your, you're going to come up with your goals and figure out what exactly it is you're trying to do. And then, of course, get into that decision. You make that decision and you move into, to action, because you got to take action. And you'll hear people say, take massive action. I'm going to tell you what, as long as you're putting 1 foot forward, that is massive action, because that's an uncomfortable place that you're going into. Being emancipated was even, if we go back and forth between what Abraham Lincoln did and what's going on now, let's think about this. You got people who were enslaved, and even after they were emancipated, they were like, well, what is it that we do? So you had a lot of people who just said, we'll just stay here and end up being sharecroppers. Listen, give us some land, we will pay you rent, and we will still work these lands because we've been enslaved for 400 years. What do we do?
We don't know anything else.
What do we do?
Well, there's a world outside of this.
Oh my God. Think, and now bring it to what you got going on now, because I've expressed and I've spoken about stepping out onto my own, doing my own entrepreneurial ventures, leaving the government job, the corporate job, or whatever it is, and going out on my own. And coming from the family that I came from, Jamaicans, hardworking, always work for someone, coming even out of that paradigm, because 20-30 years ago, you were thinking that you were going to work for someone until you got that golden watch or whatever it is, your pension, and then you retired, et cetera, the parachute, going out, because entrepreneur, right now it's popular, right now it's more accepted, right now you can be an entrepreneur and run your own thing. But stepping out of that thing, that mindset, that hour-to-hour mindset, that working for this company mindset, that's a huge step. That's a huge step and an investment.
Let's roll right into this. External battle versus internal battle. I feel like that's exactly where we are right now, because in that decision process, that's what's going on. The Civil War, an external battle, right? But that external battle was an internal battle first. There was something inside people's hearts and inside their minds that wasn't aligned. And so they were, people were trying to figure out, is it right? Is it right? You got people that are dying. You got blacks that are dying. You got, Hispanics that are dying. You got people that are dying. They're underneath slavery. They're underneath somebody's oppressive thumb. And you got some people that are saying, this ain't right. It's not right. And they got to give up their life.
Yep.
They got to give up their life. This is the external battle that is first internalized, and now come fast forward, looking at where we are now. For me to come out of my house, there's an internal battle that I got going on. It's like my mind says I'm ready to be a grown man. That's what my mind says. But my finances don't support that. I jump out there and I ain't got no money. I got to hustle to make my money. I got to go live inside of a motel where they charge me by the day so that I can go work somewhere and pay this person daily, $50 daily, so that I can live there, because I can't afford to live inside of a house or an apartment, And I'm telling y'all how I came out. When I left my mom's house, I went into a motel. I lived off of Broadway. You know what I mean? I had to make my money daily. I had to pay that man daily, or we ended up paying him by the week. That's how we did it. We paid him, you know? I remember meeting the dread down there. He was like, this is the only man that works. That's the way he looked at me every single morning. He looked at me, the only man who works, you know? I hope I'm not saying too much.
I think when you said dread, you had to explain the dread.
You know, just a Rastafarian.
Right. Yeah,
Rastafarian,
you know, right.
It's a Rastafarian, but I guess the slang terminology was just the dread, because in that time it was only Rastafarians that really had dreads, you know, and then the culture started to change and people wanted to be Rastafarians who are not Rastafarians, because to be a Rastafarian means you have to have a certain type of belief, you know, but people wanted to have dreads. So they didn't necessarily have to be a Rastafarian. And so things ended up changing, you know, and wow, man, that's like an emancipation right there. It's like, hey, listen, I am going to be this. This is my proclamation. I am no longer that. I am now this. And that external versus internal battle is deep. It is deep. And that is the thing. That is the thing that sinks the ship that people attend to pretend or attend to board in order to gain their freedom. It's the hardship that you're going to go through in order for you to have the freedom that you desire, the liberty that you desire. It's the thing that Mike was just talking about when he worked for the government. He decided he would declare something, and then eventually he made it happen. PAM management, you know? He projected, he acted, and then all of a sudden, manifestation came.
Manifestation is still coming. We still working on the government no more. We still working on the actual manifestation. The not working for the government was a decision. That was decision, and then the manifestation is the vision. You know, or what I saw as the vision, because I'm still not in it. Right. I'm still working on it. I keep saying I want to hear the bell from Toastmasters.
Ding. I can get you one.
It's getting into uncomfortable places. Freedom is not free. Like, and we celebrate a lot. I mean, we just celebrated Memorial Day. That within itself tells you exactly what it takes to have this so-called freedom it is that we're looking for. Leaving your parents' house is not free. You know, leaving your parents' house, you start getting uncomfortable. You start the ideal of freedom is free, but what it's going to take to get there, it's going to take some work. Right? You no longer want to, you come to the thought that you no longer want to be at this job, that there's more out in the world for you, that you can't manifest. If we're talking about PAM management, you can't manifest within the constraints of this environment. So we're going to go out and we're going to go and do it on our own. Or we're gonna figure out our own, because it constraints regardless of where you go. But we're gonna go out and we're gonna operate outside of it. So you know, we're leaving this environment, whether it's your parents' house, whether it's the government, or whatever it is. We're gonna go operate and we're gonna do it on our own. So at the same time, and here's my frustration about that in that regards, is that once you take that step out, that's just the beginning. Just like the slaves, if they decided, okay, I'm not gonna do the sharecropping thing. I want to be free. I want to be a free man. I want to do my own thing. There was a whole lot of hardships that came along with it. There was like, okay, where do we sleep? Where do we eat? Where do we go? How do we work? How much do we get paid? We were never paid before, right? So you got to think, man, I'm even thinking about that. What is your self-worth at that point in time, coming out of slavery? How, what is it that you feel as if you deserve coming out of that? Just like when you leave your parents' house, what is it that you deserve? What's the world going to tell you? And I'm going to tell you what, you have to show your value. You have to show your worth. You said the Rastafarian, the dread, came and said, "You the only man that works." Right?
That's it. Every day. Yeah.
But you weren't the only one that were in this. You weren't the only one living in that hotel.
No, because there was actually three of us that were together.
Right.
There's three of us that were together to afford what we had. But I was the one that got the respect.
You had to, and you went out. Here we go. So it's like you had to take it. I think we all have our own self. Like we're all valuable. Like who can tell you what a human is worth, right? Like who can tell us what we're worth? Because it's worth. We all are worth more than beyond money. Like what are we talking about? Money? What are we what is? However, we have to establish that value. These are things that you have to establish. You have to come to that knowledge all within yourself. As an 18-year-old, I'm not sure what time you left, when you left your mother's house, or whether it was 17, 18, 19 years old. You get out in the world, you don't know what is exactly like. What is the going rate?
What is the going rate of the human being? Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, what you're talking about is so real, because they were selling slaves. So there was a going rate. I mean, what you're talking about? Yeah, because during slavery, men were sold for X amount. Women were sold for X amount. If you were older, the price was less or it was more based on your knowledge and experience. If you were younger and you were more submissive, it was based off of this. If you were naughty and you had your own thought process, then you might be worth less to somebody, because they have to break you and they may not want to do that. If you were light-skinned like me, you may be worth more, because now they can use you as a house slave. If you're dark skinned, maybe they don't want to pay you as much, because they just throw you out in the field and forget about you. Like, all of these things were going through people's minds. And for us, as far as being Black inside of this community, and as far as being in North America, like coming out of that, what happened through the civil rights movement and everything else brought us to a place where, hey, what am I worth?
What are you worth? It's a very, we're not even going to have the time to get into the depths of that conversation, but it's something to think about. It's something to think about coming out of that, because that's a paradigm shift. What exactly what we work, coming out of that 9-to-5 job, coming out of that 9-to-5 working for someone else, and coming out and actually out here, and you're actually out here giving results. What exactly is that worth? What are you worth? We charge based on what we feel we're worth. So look at yourself and see what you're charging. That's what you're kind of telling yourself what you're worth, because you're able to, we're able to place that on ourselves. And at this point in time, it's a huge mindset thing, and then it's the people that you're around. What is it? You're the average of the 5 people that you hang around the most. Great time to take a look at your surroundings. Great time to see how much we're how much you're progressing. Great time.
And that's powerful, right? Because as I'm thinking about what you're saying, we've talked about this so many times, right? We've talked about that so many times over the last 5 years, or over the last, at least the last 5 years. We've talked about that so many times. And the thing is like, when you start to think about it, it's like when you actually take those words and you start to think about who are the people that you surround yourself with the most, who are you talking to the most. And I mean, if we can, let's just exclude, maybe like your significant other or your mom or your children, because those people you're going to talk to no matter what. And let's just start talking about your best friends, your best business relationships, and those types of individuals. And if you would hang out for a night, who is it that you would hang out with? And then go back 5 years and look to see if that has changed or if it remained the same. Because seeing the average of the sum of who you are or who you surround yourself with, that makes a huge difference. Like, are you hanging out with guys or girls that are still bumming on the street? Or are you hanging out with millionaires? And it doesn't, I'm not saying that the person that bums on the street is greater than the millionaire, but I'm saying the thought process of each of those individuals is vastly different. So when you start to level out the scale of everything in between, it makes a huge difference on what your value is, because you are saying that your value is according to those that you surround yourself with. Because listen, I have no problem with the person that is bumming off the street, especially if they're trying to get some food to eat, or they're trying to get somewhere and they're trying to do something, and this is the way that they think they're going to get there. I'm more inclined to help that person right there, because they want to get out of that situation, and they're in that situation for whatever reasons, but they want to get out, but then maybe there's someone who's bumming on the streets and they just plan on just staying in the place that they are. And I don't want to pull up judgment on these individuals. That's not what I mean. That's not the purpose behind that. But what I'm getting at is that, are we making progressive movement inside of our life to better ourselves? Because if I'm around somebody who is doing these types of behaviors and is not making progressive movement, and when they hear me speak, and it does not affect their heart, because I'm not coming to judge anybody. I want to help everybody. So my friends, when I start laying out my passion, if that doesn't move them, I don't need to be around them, because I'm only hanging around people that can move me and give me a greater drive to be a better me. That's it. That's who I am. And that's who I want to be around. And if you're not that type of person, I don't need to be around you. Period.
1000%, brother. I love it, and especially towards the latter end of the conversation, because, and I'm not excluding your kids or your family or your brother. I'm they all lumped up into it. They all lumped up into your average. I'm telling you, because if you have or spouse either, because if you have a parent that is operating at a certain vibrational level, and here, make no mistake about it, I don't care whether or not you feel as if you had a relationship with your parents or not, or how strong your parent, you feel your relationship with your parents or not. You're and definitely biological. I'm not the non-biological ones definitely play a part as well, especially if they're in your life. But biological ones do play a part. You may not have seen your mother in years. You may not have seen your father in years, but what they do say and feel, there's an inner child in you that still wants to cling to it. So that being said, whoever it is, and this is why we create boundaries. I bring what Nas said. Nas says, besides my children, boundaries were the greatest things that I've ever created. You have, even with these people, you have to create boundaries, because your spouse could be a dream killer if you all aren't on the same page. Your mother could be a dream killer. You could walk in the house and she can tell you you always been like your father. You could have one of those movie kind of moments that I come across. Your father can be have a poor mindset, right? So for me, I count all of that, because I need to know how much time I need to lay out. How much I'm not saying I'm leaving them. I'm not saying that I'm saying we're not family. What I'm saying is that I have to live, especially at these pivotal moments in our lives. I have to limit my time, because our mind is such a like our thoughts are. We have. I found this. I got some information. 46% of our thoughts are recurring. We have over 60,000 thoughts in a day. So if you're 46, so 46% is recurring, and you're around people who are similar to that, and their thoughts tend to be of a lower vibrational level, or a lower level thoughts, that means that our actions, which come out of our thoughts, are pretty much going to be the same thing. The things that we speak are coming from our thoughts, so it's going to be on that same level as our thoughts. So 46% of our thoughts are lower vibrational, and I'm attempting to higher my vibration or think on a higher level of mindset, then it affects me. So my parents definitely are going to affect me. My spouse, or significant other, is definitely going to affect me. My kids are going to affect me, right? If my so all these things are contributing to it. also in regards to the money aspect of it, because there's some millionaires and the brother clarified it, but there's definitely some people out here who have money who are low, have low character. I don't if that's an integrity, and I'm not I don't align with their beliefs or system of being, of being, regardless of how much money they have. Right? I don't want to be around. I don't want to be around that kind of energy. Whereas there's someone who may not necessarily have the money, but their character. There's some people that we speak about all the time. Being around, they may not be the richest people in the world, but when they speak wisdom and when they speak to you, it's a huge. It's huge. So I definitely feel as if our, being around these people who align with what you have going on, and if they're very close to create the boundaries of that, especially if they're not headed in the same place that you're headed in, or they're not there with you yet, because there's pivotal moments during our emancipation, during this freedom, when we're defining our worth, when we're defining our value, that we need to be at the highest level that we can be, and around people who are also going to be aligned with us and are vibrating at that level. So I think it's very important. Just let's get to a time at 16, the awareness of probably 15, 16, I was ready to get out of the house. I was out of the house at 17. I want to say thank God, and I went off to college for about an entire year. Praise God. I was almost in isolation while I was in college. It was me, the library, and the house. And at that time, I think I read the Bible twice. I was watching, it was a very foundational point, and I probably, that's what was a huge defining moment into where I am now, because I had that time of leaving the house and being able to establish myself and being okay with being alone, and being okay, and gaining a lot of, I gained a lot of knowledge. I spent so much time at Florida A&M University Library, I couldn't even tell you. Didn't go out. I don't think I went to the club one time my first year or anything else out of that. It was years after that when I started to actually integrate into this so-called college life that I was in at the time. But it was very foundational, and I got to thank God for that, because probably if it was left up to my own devices, it wouldn't have been so.
It's real deal, man. I think that's real deal. You know, I honestly, Mike, when it came down to me, I walked out. I walked out of my house with no clue what was going on. I just knew I had to leave.
Right.
That's it. I had to leave because her rules weren't my rules. Her ways weren't my ways. And I felt like my ways needed to take precedence in my life. That was it. That was my Emancipation Proclamation. I was about 17 years old. Yep. Dope, man. Dope.
Super dope. I know our time is coming up short, man. Guys, if I could leave with like one thing from this conversation, and actually, and nothing happens in a vacuum. So it's just conversation after conversation after conversation. Um, is that you is to get with this Emancipation Proclamation, because we are at a pivotal time in history, in life history. There's been other times like this, and to where we are. That's why I think so much things are in disarray. There's a lot of confusion, because there's so much information that we've gotten so far so fast, that a lot of people are attempting to find their way and feel it out. We have this awareness about us. Get very clear and aware on it. Those of us who need to, right? Start to gain that clarity. Start to if you can fast. If you start to understand meditation, all this is going to help to get you clear and understand yourself. And then, and going on what the brother says, then you can start to project and act and manifest on these different things because you're gonna have this process, and and start to take these move forwards, but really start to get clear on these different things, the people that you're around, where you are, where you want to be, and then you can start moving forward, and to define your value. That's my final thoughts on it.
Awesome. 100%, man. I think that's a good word of advice, and I don't want to add nothing to it, take nothing away from it. Listen, y'all, this is a pre-recording. We're getting ready to shut it on down. So we just hope that y'all enjoyed this thing. There was a lot of pieces in this. It was just passionate, and this is not us telling everybody what they need to do. This is us sharing with you some of the light that we have on the inside of us, how we got to who we are. A lot of times you look around and you see the person, you're like, wow, they're so successful. They're so this, they're so that, and the thing about it is you see the now, but you don't know the how. And that's why we like to bring this to you, so you can know how we get to where we are, because sometimes that is the mystery in all of it, like the brother was just saying, his vision is not totally actualized yet. Neither is mine. But I guarantee that we are working every single day to make that vision actualize, because PAM management, it's a lifelong thing. Once you set that declaration into the atmosphere, you got to work at it every single day. You have to act on it, because manifestation has nothing to do with you. Nothing at all. It's something that happens. Happens.
Yeah, good.
This if God isn't manifesting in your life, then this is something that will happen based off of the actions that you have applied along the course of your life. Listen, we got to get out of here, man. It's that time. So listen, we're wrapping up. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for participating. Whoever is down there DMing now, even in that life, we like to check in too. So y'all check in. Continue to support the Community Beacon. What we are about is liberty. We discuss the things we discuss and the things we teach. They're here to show you, to our listeners, to how we have gained more light in our life, and to hopefully help you to gain a freer mindset so you can reach your highest potential and even go higher than that. So don't forget to tune in next week. All month is coming of age. Next week, we're talking about 18 years of age or bust. Got to get there. Got to get there. Don't forget to like it, love it. All right, follow, subscribe, hit the notification button so to remind you when we go live. Otherwise, we're saying peace, good night, and love you.
Love you too, man. Peace.